Now, the whole Engine Performance Expo is really about getting into the minds of some of the greatest that are out there in the engine building world. And Total Seal Piston Rings has been a leader in that, creating the Hidden Horsepower podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, the TotalSeal.com website, or wherever you get podcasts. I am the host, but I'm just the luckiest guy on the planet to be able to do it because we have such great guests, rock stars in the industry, like this guy, 9-time engine master, Mr. Jon Kaase, and of course Lake Speed Jr. is back. And we're going to do a little Hidden Horsepower live right now as part of the Engine Performance Expo. And John, I'm sure you're super excited about that.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready.
Yeah, Lake, and we have peppered this guy with questions. We already got one episode up there already, but it wasn't quite in person. And so what I would like to start it off with is an origin story, a foundational story. Like, we all know your career since then, but take me back to the back seat of a 1964 tri-powered GTO, where you went from
you've heard that story,
normal kid to race
Jon
kid.
Kaase.
Race kid, right? It happened in a Pontiac.
Yeah,
I want to hear this.
My older sister, she had a boyfriend. He came over with his Pontiac GTO 64 tri-power. You know, it had a deep gear in it and stuff. And I had never ridden in a car this fast. You know, I mean, my parents weren't racers. You know,
right?
Let's face it.
Your dad's a dentist, right?
Dad's a dentist.
Okay,
so,
Parents typically try to not endanger their kids.
Yeah, and I didn't know a car was any faster than what we drove. So anyway, we go down the street. He bangs through the gears in that thing, and it ruined my life. You know? it really didn't, but it changed my life. You know, it was like that was it. I mean, I was hooked from then on. You know, and it was more than just going fast. It was like just the sound that it made with the 4-speed, and those whiny gears. You know, the old Muncies made all kinds of racket because there was all kinds of garbage in them and whirling around. It sounded like a turbine. You know, but I'll remember that to the day I die, running in that guy's
acceleration,
car.
just putting you back in the seat.
And it had deep gears, so you know we ran through all the gears. You know, on the city streets.
Yes.
And, it probably got
and your sister was part of this? Or?
Oh yeah, well, there was 4 of us in the car. You know, no seatbelts. You know,
but Cleveland, Ohio, right?
Well, God looks after fools, right? Yeah. But anyway, you know, that kind of started it off, and I was just kind of getting to the point of thinking about cars. I was only about 13, and my dad helped me get a Nash Metropolitan when I was 13. And you know, we lived in the city, so we weren't out in the country, so I couldn't drive it on the street, but I drove it up and down the driveway thousands of times, you know, and did burnouts with it and everything. You know, it had a stick shift, but I learned cars, you know, and you know, we disassembled it. I took the rods and pistons out, put it back together, all that stuff.
Wow.
So, you know, I was always kind of interested, and I worked on lawnmowers, and you know, I had my lawnmower repair money from where I worked on lawnmowers and stuff, and by the time I was 16, I had a 66 Comet. This was 1968, so it was only a couple-year-old car. It's Comet Cyclone, and I bought it stripped out, and I got an engine and put in, and so by the time I got my driver's license, my car was ready, you know, and at the same time, I met a couple of guys that, you know, there's a couple of life-changing experiences, and for me, it was like I met this guy, Ron Baker, and Bill Rolfe, and Bill Rolfe was an engine builder, close to me, and he was only in his late 20s, but he started a shop. But anyway, he helped me through these engines and stuff, and I ended up going to work for him part-time, and I really learned a good bit of my engine business from, you know, skills from him.
Now, was that in Ohio, right?
Yeah, it's up around Cleveland.
Okay,
so it's right around the corner from my house. I could almost walk there.
Right.
So it's just lucky, you know. So I met him and I worked for him for a while, but I learned a lot of stuff from that guy.
Well,
you know, and then so I raced that car for about 6 years. Actually, I had a Mustang too, but you know, it was an 11-second car in 1969. You know, I mean, it was fast. It was 427 finally, and then I met up with a guy, Larry Ford, and we built a Pro Stock Pinto in 1975 when Pro Stock was at its beginning.
Yeah.
And we did good with it. You know, I built the engines, he built the car, he drove it, and we qualified at Gator Nationals and Indy and some of that stuff, and we finally wrecked the car. So we weren't sure how we were going to rebuild it, but it was end of 1976. I met Dino Don in that time because we raced with him.
Right, yeah, that's how you met Dino Don.
And he was just the best guy for meeting and talking to. It didn't matter who you were. He had no system. Anybody he would talk to and be nice to. And so that's the other profound effect on somebody's life. You know, I went to work for him. and I wanted to get out of Ohio. Winter was there. It was icy. You know, he lived in California. You know what I mean?
I can imagine this day. You're driving your car in January in Cleveland, and you're like, I'm out of here.
I'm done. You know, and he needed a crew chief, and I wanted to get out, and I was done with college and stuff. So I said, well, I'll do this for a while. So I went to work for him, and, you know, of course, working for him, I met everybody. You know, you know,
California at that time?
Oh, yeah. Mickey Thompson and all those people.
Yeah.
So, but we had really good luck. The first year he won his NHRA championship, you know, and so I worked for him for about 3 years, but I wasn't going to make a really good living at it because, I mean, nobody had any money.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you can't live for $200 a week.
No.
You know, and at that time I met my future wife Linda. We had got married and stuff, and you know, we just need to do something else, not live on the road out of a suitcase. So I started my own business into '79, and then almost immediately we started working on big engines for Ricky Smith. He had a car that Roush had built. It was Oak Ridge Boys sponsored car.
Yes.
Big inch motor.
And we're here in Tennessee today, Oak Ridge Boys.
Big 420, Boss 429, and we did good with it.
Yeah.
And we did really good with it. And we started building more, and really, fast forward to now, things just kind of progressed.
So your shop was in California, though?
No, Georgia.
Georgia. So when you opened your own shop, you moved?
No. With Nicholson, he had a place in California, a place in Atlanta.
Didn't know that.
And we spent most of our time in Atlanta because most of the match races was back east.
Okay.
So it wasn't. I didn't even have to move when I started my own shop. I was already in an apartment in Atlanta. So, but you know, I rented spaces and stuff. About 20 years ago, we built a building, and that's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
So it's kind of grown. It's grown a lot. You know, we still do big engines. For about 25 years, we did nothing but big engines.
Yeah.
You know, big Ford drag race motors.
Oh, yeah.
And then
that's what I first heard of you was Mountain Motor Pro Stock. That was you were the king of that.
Then we started branching out, and we started making some cylinder heads, you know, on our own and getting things done, and so now we've got several avenues that we work in. You know, we do
the marine stuff.
Yeah, we do some marines. You know, some of them are called Super Cats, where they're it's a race boat, big boat, but they're big Chevys, and we work on those. And then we've got the unlimited stuff, which it was the Geico team, and it's still a team. It's just going to be changing their name. But we won a championship with them, you know, and these are 180 mile an hour boats.
Yeah, they're big. Yeah, they like multiple engines too, right?
Yeah, twin turbo, 2 engines. They call them a Mercury QC4. Oof. So today we work on those QC4s. We're one of the few people that really work on them because they're not only a little difficult, but Mercury really doesn't like anybody else working on them, and they won't.
Are those a twin overhead cam?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like a huge Coyote motor with twin turbos.
Why not?
It's a masterpiece. It really is. So we work on those and on those big offshore boats, and some of them are poker runs.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do those. You know, we build cylinder heads and fill cylinder heads from scratch. Or Boss 429 stuff, like original Boss 429. Right. And we build manifolds for those, and you know, valve covers and stuff like that. And then we've got a wedge head that we build. It's, you know, 460 style looking. It looks like a passenger car, but they'll make 1,200 horse if you do it right.
Yeah. Now, I also know you got into this Southeast Gasters thing, right? You were testing yesterday, right?
Yeah, we were testing at Shadyside yesterday, one of those old cars with the straight axles and stuff, and it's everything like 1966. You know, you can't be.
And you're driving?
No.
Oh.
No.
I know this guy.
I would love to drive that car.
Crazy Grandpa.
I'm gonna tell you what, it's a man's race car. It's hard because they're clutch 4 speeds.
Yeah, as you said, clutch 4 speed.
There's no RPM limiters, and it's just like it was in the 60s. And they're, you know, if they were quarter-mile cars, it'd be below 8 seconds, so they're fast.
You said they're straight axle too.
Straight axles. They're all over the place. They do wheel stands. It's a cool deal. So we've got a lot of different things going, and you know, today, besides me, there's 10 other guys working with me.
Right.
You know, and every one of them's first class. They're all the best there is.
Yeah.
So you know, and if some of them are, I've got a wide range of guys. I got a guy that's 21. I got a guy that's 77. You know, and I did a little math coming here. You know, altogether we got 350 years of building experience. 350. A
little bit.
With 11 guys.
Yeah.
Got a first class team of guys.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah,
and you've been here.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And it's really. I hope it's a fun place. You know,
I love coming to your place. What are you talking about? It's like if I go near Atlanta, I'm coming to your shop.
We get a lot done, but
yeah. Well, by the way, I've never walked in the door of his shop and not seen him standing at a machine making parts, ever. I've never caught you on the phone, either on the dyno or you're running a lathe. Or
fortunately, you know, Cliff and Doug do a lot of the phone stuff, and I love machining parts. I love dyno, and I like working on engines. I especially like working on a new project that's different.
Yeah.
But this is a tough business. And I'm not really that excited about running a business anymore. You know, my guys do a really good job at it, and the farther I am back in the building, the better off everybody is, I think.
Well, I think the last time I was in the shop, you were actually working on a set of heads for one of those gasser motors.
Yeah, for that gasser. Now, I will tell you, we're not going to do many of those because it's a money loser. You know,
a lot of work.
Yeah, but you know, maybe something that took place of the Engine Masters this year because there wasn't one.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they've closed that down for a while. So sometimes
speaking
you
of
just
Engine
want,
Masters,
yes,
right. Let's talk about that.
9 times. That's the challenge, right? I like to be a challenge. I like to come up with a challenge.
Yeah. Well,
that's a challenge.
That was. I missed it this year. It's like when the weather starts getting cool, I start thinking I should be in there working on that. Well, there was nothing to work on this time, you know, because they put it to rest for a while. But we'll see what happens in the future. They might pick it back up again. Race-winning brands talked about it. But
did you have your planned out entry? Did you already figure out what you were going to do?
Yeah, I had one started. I was going to build a little Ford, but you know, and some of them are disasters. Some of them aren't that good, and some of them really are good. So,
right.
You know.
Well, the one I think everybody, if you've known about the Engine Masters and heard about Jon, I think the one that probably is the most iconic one is the valve seat.
Oh, well, you mean the Edsel motor with the chamber that.
Explain for those who haven't watched or don't know. Please explain.
You'd kind of have to look and find it on YouTube or something.
Yeah, you should totally look at that.
It was a 58 Edsel engine that the chamber was just extended down into the bore about 1 inch. You know, and it was done with a big, huge piece of brass. But very hard to explain, but you could find pictures.
Because essentially you couldn't put a valve job on it, right, or something like that. But they didn't say anything about a gasket, so you actually made.
Well, it was almost an unlimited set of rules, but it basically spaced the heads up off the block about 1 inch and just made the head taller. But it was mostly because the chamber came down. It made the valve bowls deeper, and boy, there's something to that. Now, let me tell you.
Right.
I mean, it was good.
But it was basically you had to take a whole billet piece of copper, or in this case, it wasn't really copper. It was more like a
the chambers
material,
were
right?
round pieces about like this, about 1 inch thick. That just stuck in there, and then there was an aluminum piece that went around them to space them up. But it was a one-in-a-lifetime project, but it worked good.
Oh yeah. Go to YouTube, find it. What year was that, Engine Masters?
17.
17. Yeah, just go check it out later on, because you will not be sorry for investing that time in your life.
And you had the courage to go into that competition with a Pontiac engine at one point.
I built a couple times. I built Pontiacs, and
because they tie to the GTO, right?
That's exactly what I was thinking, and I wanted to do something different than the Ford, and the Pontiac it qualified #1, but the one time I burned it up. Well, you know, the pump gas, and I think I had a piece of gasket went in a jet or something. Anyway, it wasn't my year, and you know.
Yeah, it happens.
One of my really good friends won, and I was glad for him. So, I mean, that's the way it is. He's not going to win them all.
No. Well, you and Bischoff were back and forth. Y'all were fierce competitors in that.
Tony is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really tough, and I really enjoyed
I'm sure
going
you
against
did.
him.
I'm sure you did, yeah.
I think twice. One time he beat me by 1 horsepower. Another time I beat him by 5 horsepower or something. You know?
Amazing.
So he was, you know, he hasn't done it as much, but lately. But he's super competitive.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to say something, right?
Yes.
So, we may have mentioned it earlier. The #1 segment from the first expo was you doing your video.
That's
right?
what I was going to bring up.
Okay,
right?
I'm stepping all over you here.
Well, no, because it's the point. Go ahead, continue.
Well, the thing is, literally 2 weeks ago, Jon, I'm in a guy's shop, and he points out the Scotch Brite disc, and he called it the Jon Kaase disc.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of handy things that we've come up with over 50 years of building engines.
Right.
Really, most of them were from the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But
a lot of them were different because like I told you before, I may have mentioned at the beginning of the show, that original presentation you gave was at AETC.
Yeah, some of it.
Probably like 10 years ago.
Yeah, they were all bits and pieces from other presentations.
Right, which was great to be able to share with everybody. You know?
But they're and they need to know how to go and find that on your.
Right.
It's really the last year's stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things on there. If you build engines, it will help you.
The split nut tool was fantastic.
It's very cheap to do things.
Oh yeah, none of those things were expensive.
Mm-hmm.
None of them.
But I couldn't do it again because I don't have any more.
That was it.
Well, there might be a few, but that was you got most of them.
Yeah, but you're willing.
I had to fill it 45 minutes. I had
your willingness to share those secrets. Not everyone in a profession is willing to share their secrets. They don't want other people knowing the information they've amassed over the years. That in and of itself.
Sometimes you just need to. And some of those things, it's like we talked before. The guys you don't want to know already know.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
You're not pulling over the wool of their eyes.
Yeah.
They already figured it out too.
Yeah. And some of those come from other shops.
Yeah.
A few of those things. So, and you know what, some of that. I mean, if you had your super secret way of porting heads or something, that's one thing. But most other stuff, everybody knows.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, back to the thing, it's combination too. It's like I know in NASCAR the thing was, hey, I can give you my right front spring. Good luck with the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what.
Right. Yeah, you gotta have you gotta have the whole package.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always heard, well, you can share, help somebody in the right direction. I can give you a part of this.
Right.
But you still got to figure out the rest of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind sharing that stuff.
No, you've always been
Yeah.
a gracious host and help us all with everything. So we appreciate you taking your time to be here and do this and share these things.
Sure.
It's great. You know?
Well, this didn't take any prep this year. You just show up.
It's easier. Just show up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the mountain motor stuff because they're kind of being pulled into the NHRA now, and I'm learning a lot more than I had ever been exposed to Mountain Motor Pro Stock, and man, they're amazing machines. But to be on the forefront of that and kind of go into it when it was new and a frontier almost, if you will, and now that I speak with those guys, they just love it. They love the having more power than they can use and the grunt carrying that front tire 300 feet. Yeah,
they're really, when you think about it, they're probably the most powerful NA motor ever anyway, because there's maybe airplane, World War II airplane.
Yeah.
But as far as a car
most
engine,
are supercharged though.
Yeah, well that's true.
Yeah.
But most of it's for a car engine. We're a little over 2,000 horsepower on the best of the best days. And for a carbureted V8 to make 2,000 horse on its own,
Oh, it's a joke.
It's not that easy.
I remember the first time I got to the shop and they were dynoing one of those things. I thought there was a Formula One engine in there or something.
Yeah, they're loud. Yeah,
because you think, okay, well, it's a big giant engine. It doesn't turn a crazy amount of RPM. And here I come from a NASCAR shop. These guys are dynoing 10,000 RPM all day long, and I hear this sound, and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? That thing's like, it's screaming. And I'm like, that thing's only turning like 7,200 RPM. But then you said...
Well, we turn them 8,500.
Okay, with the piston speed, right?
I forget what it is, 80, I don't know. It's a big number.
Yeah,
it's 8,
faster than a Formula One engine.
Yeah, there's nothing, because of stroke.
The mean piston velocity is faster than a Formula One engine at 20,000 RPM.
Yeah, but they don't cause any trouble. It doesn't burn the skirts off them. They were in fine. It's hard on the connecting rods because they're pulling so hard when they change direction. That's what's hard.
Now, with those, did you use a steel rod or an aluminum rod?
Oh, no. You'd never get it. Aluminum rod.
Aluminum rod, yeah.
It needs a cushion.
Yeah.
Steel rod, you most likely would tear the bearings out of it or something because the shock is so much.
Yeah,
plus you'd never get it balanced.
And as a civilian, like just wrapping my mind around things that don't make sense, like there are a lot of stats I run into on a regular basis, and it just still don't. Like a top fuel dragster 0 to 100 miles an hour in 0.8 of a second. Like you can tell me that all day long, and I can't get with it. And the piston speed and the starting and stopping, when I try to think about it, it just
brain locks up.
The brain locks up because it's like, no, how can that actually be happening? How can anything do that?
I don't really. For some reason, we get by with it. That's all I know. Don't.
Yeah, right. It happens.
Don't ever let anybody tell you something won't work.
Right.
Until you know for sure yourself it doesn't work.
Right.
Because Because yeah, I had somebody tell me years ago we couldn't build these big engines because the rod burner wasn't big enough for it. Well, we run those things 100 runs. You know, they're fine. So, you know, just you fix what breaks is pretty much what you do.
That's a good way to look at it, right? Yeah, you fix what breaks.
I mean, we know in the big engines, the connecting rods, we have to service them maybe every 30 runs, and then, you know, the lifters, you have to rebuild those, and valves every once in a while, pistons will go. They actually last pretty well.
It's pretty amazing to make that kind of power and be that. Well, you said too, they're running. Well, they're with NHRA. They're running quarter mile. They run eighth mile.
We run quarter mile.
Run quarter mile. Yeah. So back to really, I mean, because what's the top speed on that thing? About 220,
225, 228 in there somewhere.
You know, they're nasty. It's good.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you know, we have worked on those for well 40 years. Yeah, on big engines. I started in 1980, so yeah, this is our 41st year of building big engines.
And what's the biggest displacement you built on those?
We don't, well, because the Ford, we never built a wide bore center block with real big bores. So, you know, we maybe did a 900-inch one time, pulling truck or something, but we've never, because nobody really wants to build pro mods out of them, so we didn't ever go that route. Okay. You could, but we don't want to, you know, nobody wants to spend the money.
Right. Well, exactly. And that's what I've heard through my conversations. It's like, hey, we're all out here racing. We got something that's already making more power than we need already. So what's the point of going into this like crazy development race and costing everybody a bunch of money and instead of racing, we're just developing. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we don't, you know, we're at the point where we don't want to spend our own money on a lot of R&D on something we're not going to sell any of. Or you got to be careful. You can't build something really tricky. You know, it's all one. You know?
Right. It's a business. In the end, it's a business. As much as you're an artist, it's a business.
I mean, if you run it with your heart, you might go bankrupt.
Yeah. And let's go back to the boat stuff now. You know, it's easy to say, 180 miles per hour on the water. But when
that's crazy fast.
When you think about it, like that's another one of the numbers that just doesn't really make sense.
Well, it's a 50-foot long boat. You know, it weighs 14,000 pounds, you know. Doesn't have brakes.
All I can think of this. I mean, my dad's a water skier from day go. Now, I learned how to water ski when I was about 6. If you hit the water going like 36 miles an hour, it hurts.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine 180. That's insane.
No. Well, unfortunately, on a straightaway crash, they don't survive those a lot of times, you know. So we try to behave. Sometimes in the corners they'll bump. Yeah. You know, but they behave pretty well in the straightaways because it's too fast to wreck. You know, but where they normally would have trouble is if they do a blowover.
Right.
Yeah. Those are really tough on the drivers.
And how is it different? You know, building something it's like two opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Drag racing, it's got to live for 6 seconds and over 100 runs, say. Whereas in the water, that is prolonged exposure.
It's the abuse those engines take is unbelievable. You know, and it's like a big Daytona when you get out there. They'll maybe go 2 miles, make a turn, come back 2 miles, you know. And so they're wide open for 2 miles worth. And 2 engines, there's, Lord knows, there's probably 100 hoses and stuff and hose clamps.
Oh.
And, you know, there's so
Joe,
many.
You got to see these engines. They're huge and all the coolers and everything on them.
And there's so many things that could fail. Right. And it doesn't take but one, you know. And you know, if you're the one who put it together, you're sitting there and, you know, it's just like, won't this race ever get over, you know? And it's only lap 4 and there's 12 more to go or something. So it's really hard to watch. Yeah. It's hard to watch, you know.
Well, so let's go this. From these big giant engines.
Yeah.
Tell Joe and the listeners about the little COVID lockdown project you have.
My bike?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have any pictures here. But
it's on our Instagram. If you go to Total Seal's Instagram page, there's one on there. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I took pictures while I was at the shop. I put them on there,
It's a little V-twin that I built out of an airplane. It was a model airplane engine that it was an opposed engine, so I built a crankcase and I wanted it to look like a little miniature Harley.
Right, yeah. So stop. He built his own crankcase.
But the motor's only about this big.
Yeah.
But you know what? It goes about probably 40 miles an hour on the bike.
So that's your pit bike now?
Yeah, if I ever get to go to races again, if we get over all these sicknesses. But yeah, it's a neat little project. It's got an 8-speed transmission on it that came out of a Shimano rear axle hub, you know, it's like a Lenko. Okay. He shipped it wide open and it shifts. No clutch, nothing. It's just like
Really?
oh yeah, yeah.
It's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I think we need to go down to Atlanta, and we
Right.
just need to go drive that thing up around the parking lot,
that's
down the
fine.
street.
Yeah, it kept us busy.
And you know, there's
Yeah.
racing in town this week, and since you're already here,
Yeah, well, I think I'm not sure about that. I might have to go back to work.
technically this is work.
Yeah, but this is fun.
Yeah.
So with the racetrack being up the street, are you had any good Bristol stories? Because
No, we got in my pro stock pinto we had in '76. We got runner up at that race.
really,
Yeah, fall race in IHRA. Yeah, it was the best we ever did. Yep, and the next weekend is when we crashed the car. Yeah. But, you know, then if we wouldn't have crashed, you know, there's all these life-changing events. You know?
Right.
If we didn't crash the car, I don't know, maybe we still would have raced. If I still would have raced, I wouldn't have been working for Dyno Don. You know,
Right.
so everything in your life might not be sitting here.
no, exactly.
You know, so you don't know.
No, you don't. You never know.
Yep.
So growing up in Cleveland area, did you know Ron Hutter? You mentioned him earlier.
Oh, yeah,
We were
sure.
chatting.
Yeah, Hutter. Yeah, he's one of the absolute best.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
He's one
Just
of
another
the best.
quiet guy.
He's kind of underrated because a lot of people don't really understand and know him because he's a little bit low profile.
Mhm.
But he is absolute genius.
We spoke with him on a recent episode of Hidden Horsepower, and it was
Yeah.
just like once you, it's interesting, like these deep thinking types.
Oh, yeah,
right.
he's
Like
great.
you're media friendly. Okay,
Yeah.
but some of the deep thinkers, like you got to pull them out of that, and then they start to go, and oh, here we go.
Yeah.
You know, it's on, and then
Yeah,
he
you
starts
got it.
telling some stories, and
Yeah, but-
you know, even you know, pushing back on conventional thinking, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I have a lot of. He's one of my heroes. You know, aside from a couple people here.
Yeah, I heard. I heard. There
Oh
was
yeah,
like a-
earlier I walk out there in the waiting room, and there's Jon Kaase and WJ sitting at the table. I'm like, man, that is too brilliant right there.
Yeah, and you know, not to pry, but like, what's that conversation about? Is it about engines or something else?
Well, I kind of since WJ's got the whole day. He's
Yeah.
waiting to do his thing later. I said, "Come on over here and have a seat." You know.
Yeah. Let me ask you some stuff.
Yeah, it was
trade some
more-
notes.
It was, and it's not easy to get. You know.
So you were prying for
WJ
knowledge. You're trying to
but
get some.
We are
info.
good friends, though.
Yes.
And we really respect
You
each
don't,
other.
well, you drive by
And
his shop on your way to work.
I can drive by his shop on Sunday morning at 7:30. If I happen to be going to work, his car will be in the lot. He's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear Warren gets to work at 4 a.m.
Nah, he said about 8.
All right.
He's,
Don't ruin the
But-
legend. So
but,
don't
yeah,
let the
but-
facts get in the way of a great
but,
story.
we can have some pretty good conversations, but still at this point, I've never really seen any of his cylinder heads or anything. You know, he's still got.
Oh yeah, no, yeah,
no.
he's not
No,
gonna.
I
happen.
wouldn't even ask.
Yeah, not
No.
gonna.
Well,
happen.
I'll ask for you
Yeah.
later on today. It's like Kaase wants to see the cylinder heads, Warren. Let it happen.
Nah,
You know,
we're
it's-
not going there.
All right. All
No.
right.
All right, so talking about media friendly and some other good YouTube videos. Tell us, where did the origin come from of the finger in the manifold? Right. If you've not seen it, it's on
Yeah,
YouTube,
it's on
right?
YouTube.
And don't try it at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely don't
the
try it. at home.
AETC Kaase video or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody put it up there. I didn't put it up, but I had to do a presentation for the AETC,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of wanted to see how this would work anyway. I always wanted to do this, but we had a motor on the dyno, and we built a big steel shield, so if it blew up, it wouldn't hurt us.
So you
Too
could
bad.
stand next to the
So you
engine
could stand-
while you're making the dyno pulls.
Yeah, so we could stand next to the engine while you're making the dyno pull. We had some plexiglass up and had a little place for your arm to come out, and then I had a little protrusion in the intake manifold. We had a glass port on the manifold, and we had like a little nipple that stuck out, and it had kind of a radius end on it, and you could put your finger in there.
Right.
And I wanted to see what the pulses felt like,
Right.
you know, and it's a lot different than you might think. You know, it really was a surprise, and I had,
Like it not pushing down anywhere near as much as you think.
well, it's not a smooth flow at any time. It's not what you think it is. It'll change everything the way you think about what something runs, but there's more of a pulse going backwards. If you just close your eyes and put your finger in there, you couldn't tell which way the air was going. But you'll see it on that video.
Yeah. Stop and think about that for a second.
Well, it makes sense though. When the valve closes, everything bunches up against the valve.
I had
right?
3 or 4 of my guys did it,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the time, the first time you did it, you'd give up and tap out and pull your finger out. Because it keeps getting worse and worse, and you think, I'm only halfway through the dyno pull, and if it gets twice as bad from here, I'm gonna break my finger.
Right.
It's that strong.
It's just that violent.
Oh, you can't hold it still. It's going up and down. And if you put it in sideways, it'd probably dislocate your. I tried it sideways once. I had to pull it out.
Tapped out.
Yeah, we put a glove on, a rubber glove, and it stripped the rubber off, and it went up in there.
Really?
Yeah. But
how cold is it?
it's probably a good 30 degrees colder than the air.
Yeah.
And it's not when it's idle, and it's pretty good. And the minute you go wide open, whoa, is it cold in there?
Yeah.
You know? And so we realized that, you know, you really don't have that in a fuel injection motor.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking about last night with the gasser thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and even, you know, electronic fuel injection, it does not have that cooling, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of times carbureted engines are a little better than fuel injected, because the air's, you know, on a hot day, especially the air, because you got your vaporization and stuff going on, a little refrigeration cycle happens, you know, and it gets cold.
But look how much you learned just from that experiment.
Oh my God! And the other thing was, if you just put your finger in there a little bit, or you bend it down so it's against one of the walls, you don't feel anything. So you know, all that time you spend on all this finish and smooth, and there's nothing happening there. You know,
it's all in the center.
It's all in the middle. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So we, you know, like, and there's times when you put a manifold on, it doesn't fit quite right, you know, and you see the floor sticking up or something. Most of the time when you fix it, it doesn't make much difference. You know, it's not like it hurt at 20 or 30 horse, you know, and it probably doesn't make much difference because there's not as much going on there as you think. Out on the outside corners and on those edges. If it's like a short turn or somewhere where the air's maybe doing a real good bend, probably a little, but down the middle of a port, it's just everything's going right down the center.
Now, you mentioned when you ATC thing that you put some oil in the headers, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened?
Yeah, well, we had a clear port on this engine,
right?
And where the O2 sensors were about a foot down in the header pipe, we just put a little cap on there and drove a little hole in it, and we squirted oil in with a oil can.
Yeah.
And while it was running, it was just sitting there idling, and it took about 5 seconds to see the oil coming up in the manifold. It goes every cycle. It'd go a little farther. Pretty soon, it's all in the plenum.
Wow.
Yeah, think about that for a second. Yeah. Oil that's in the header, a foot from the exhaust valve, in about 5 seconds is in the plenum.
Okay, so what's the punchline to that?
I don't know, other than it just blows your mind.
You know what it is. It's a rusty header.
Yeah, exactly. When we did the video from the expo from January, the end of that segment, John takes a mild steel header, tamps it on the ground. I'm standing behind the camera filming it, and it's everything I can do not to be a gas and make a noise when he's tapping this thing, and a ton of rust comes out.
And they were run a week before that. You know, it's just, you got all those acids and everything in there, and if they're not stainless, that's what you get.
Yeah.
And a lot of our dyno headers are not stainless, so we have to tap them out and blow them out real good before we run them each time.
Because the moment you crank it up, in 5 seconds, that stuff's in the plenum.
Yeah.
You know, coatings prevent that, hopefully.
No, not on the inside. Now, there might be some way you could do it, but I've never been able to find it. You know, when we get the jet hot type of stuff, you know, the really good coatings, ceramic coatings, that's all on the outside of the tube. And that stuff's sort of sprayed on. They can get in there about 1 inch, but they can't get in the middle. You know, if it was dipped in a tank or something.
You think Joe may have some mild steel headers? I see a look on his face.
2/3 of the questions that I have are directly related to me. Oh, okay, that's bad.
Well, one of the things that, and a lot of people don't know, but one of the things, if you got a race car, you know, and you race it every weekend, it's got mild steel headers on it, you know, it's going to do that, right? But when you crank it up, if you got throttle about half open when you hit the ignition, just let it rev up to 4,000 real quick. You know, it's not going to hurt it.
Yeah.
You know, don't let it chug to life and just barely get going. Because that's when all that crap goes back up in the... and it'll be on the carburetor throttle plate. Yeah,
you were mentioning that to me yesterday or this morning about that. You had a customer that had that happen.
Yeah, it'll get up in there so far, it'll be all over the bottom of the carburetor. Rust.
So,
but if you rev it up the second it cranks, not 2 seconds later, but the second it cranks, if it's revved up, it kind of, now there's gonna, if it's in your garage, you're gonna have a lot of rust in the floor, you know. But it's better to not be.
You want to blow it out, not suck it up.
And you're a ring and cylinder wall finish guy, so you don't want that stuff going up and down with your rings, do you?
No, that's the worst. I thought you do all this work. You spend all this time with a profilometer, get everything right,
you may
and
as well
all
throw
that,
a handful of sand in there.
and you destroy it like that.
Yeah, and then people look at it and they say, "Oh, the guy who built this thing, he didn't get it clean, or something," because there's all these scratches, right?
Right. I mean, talk about eating it up.
So cold start, rev it up, as opposed to slowly. Like I think that the conventional logic out there from the layman might say.
Yeah, people like it to chug to life because the oil's cold. Don't worry about that. Just rev it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's
no reason not to run straight 50 or something like that.
You're not going to hurt the oil and the bearings and stuff being cold. Just rev it up. What's going to hurt you the most is the rust grinding up and down on your valve seats and the rings and the bores.
It hurts right now.
I'm thinking I need to have stainless steel headers is what I need to have.
Well, stainless, we can tell a difference if an engine has stainless headers. The bores look much better when it comes back.
Well, this is one of those little nuggets, you know, that you can think about. I mean, I know from oil analysis, I can tell a difference in how much wears in an engine if they're running titanium retainers or steel retainers. That tie retainer is lighter, but that tie wears. It will make everything else in the engine wear more every single time. Tie retainers, I mean, I get it from a valve train perspective, dynamics, but tie retainers increase engine wear across the board.
I didn't even think of that. I know that it wears them down.
Oh, it does.
You know, but you know, it's not going to stick to magnets or anything, so I guess it just goes in the oil and stays there. But
right, and the filters can't capture everything. That's the thing. I mean, a filter has what they call a beta ratio. So, say for every 1,000 particles that head to that filter, some percentage you're going to get through. And if it's a 99.9, it's for 1,000 particles, one gets through.
Okay.
But it still gets through, and that's for a given size. Depending on how small it is, it can be something. So those are all those little things. I think beyond that first piece of information, it's like, okay, why is my engine smoking and all this, right? Well, okay, let's look at your headers. I mean, it's not your first thought.
Right.
Very, very interesting. So let's move forward in that. We've talked a lot about the past, but let's talk about the future in that. You know, what do you want to work on? What is a combination that you think is, you know, cutting edge, that is the future of making big power, that kind of stuff, things that you're interested in doing in the future?
You know, sometimes we just kind of roll with what presents itself to us, you know, like it can be road course cars, or, you know, we do some Nissan GTR engines for a company in Atlanta that we just do exclusively for them. And, you know, we've learned a little bit from working on
those
it.
Those are twin turbo engines too, right?
Oh, they're stupid power. They're 2,000 horse. You know,
2,000 in a 6-cylinder.
You know, but pretty much we kind of like to look at stuff and maybe see what we can do to make it better. You know, what's failing, what can we fix?
Well, the crankshafts, right? You were showing me that.
There's
some
we're
things
breaking
there.
cranks in those, and in fact, we talked to Randy Neal here,
right?
You know, because he has a pretty good view of those things, and he helped us a little bit. But there, any of those projects, we're going to be doing some more unlimited boat stuff. I think with the Mercuries, and you know, anything that's different.
Right.
Really, anything that's different. Power wise, you know, a lot of the stuff we work on, the big engines, you know, we're not stuck, but we're at the point where the gains are getting really small. You know, but NHRA is absolutely the same way. You know, their gains are really small. Because once you get those things to 3 horsepower per inch or something, you know, there's not a lot left.
No.
Not without a rule change or something that's changed.
Right.
You know?
And well, they just, you know, not that long ago switched to the fuel injection from the carburetors.
Well, that was a step back in power.
Stepped them back, and they still haven't, they're, you know, in the right conditions, they're approaching what the record was, but they're not there yet.
But they got their air intake down on the ground, and that thing's in 130 degree air.
Oh yeah.
You know, off the asphalt.
Right.
Yeah,
on a hot day.
The speed
And then
really got
yeah.
hurt.
Oh yeah.
So I don't have an answer for that.
But they're getting there, though. That's the thing that's amazing. They're
almost back.
Well, and you're having to claw back too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big part of it. Is you're really having to kind of claw back, and those gains are small, so you have to work really hard and put a lot of little things together to try to get there, which makes it tough.
I know someone who will know about this.
Yeah.
We'll have him on a little bit later on today.
Okay, yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
And WJ, he's still working on those engines.
Yes.
More for fun.
Right.
You know, I don't think I'd love to see him drive again. I would, but I think he could. But,
I know he could.
yeah, I know.
He's got a whole thing.
Yeah.
He'll tell us.
Oh, listen,
he's ready to go.
My
What do you mean?
dad's 73. 2 weeks ago, he goes up to Indiana to go run a go-kart race. He goes there and waxes them, just kills them. Right? What he's been doing, though, he spent all summer long. We got the dyno running at the shop.
Yeah.
So we got the dyno going now. Been working on headers, a couple other things. I mean, the trick header we thought was really good that made this big peak power number. It was just that big peak power number.
Yeah.
We got another header that's maybe about 1 horsepower off, but it's 4 up everywhere else. Oh yeah,
you really have to be careful about that, because and it doesn't matter what size the motor is, but when you're working on an engine, and if you trade power around, a lot of times you can trade it.
Yeah.
Trade it down the middle and add it up at the very top. It'll almost always run worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You get that big number, everybody's happy.
Right.
Car's slower.
You got to
Right.
get there. You got to get to that peak number, and you lose time.
Well, it doesn't spend that much time up there either. It's only at the top of the gear. It's not going anywhere then.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere when it's at the bottom of the gear.
It's so interesting.
Well, I think it was Larry McReynolds, NASCAR crew chief,
Yeah.
famous guy, was like, I'll take a mile an hour at the center of a corner than a mile an hour in the straightaway.
Yeah.
So a mile an hour is a mile an hour, but the reality is that 1 mile an hour at the center of the corner is a greater percentage of the speed.
Yes.
Well,
Plus, I'm building from that 1 mile an hour the whole straightaway versus that one last little flash.
I'll tell you one thing. This is going back 1984. Leonard Wood,
Yeah.
one of my heroes, absolute heroes, nicest man. You know him.
Oh yeah.
Nicest man I've ever really talked to, just about. He told me that on one of those cars, when you run it, let's just say at the time we'd maybe go 8,000 to, let's say it's Charlotte.
Yeah.
They 8,000. The bottom end of it might be 6, something like that. He said, so the engine runs 6,000 to 8,000 all the way around the track.
Right.
And he told me absolutely for sure, and I've lived this every day since then. He said, if you kill the power at 5,500, where it never sees it, to add it up on top, it'll always run worse.
Really?
Yes.
At 55, even though you're not even there.
You're never there. He said, if whatever you did to hurt the power 500 RPM below the point that it gets to, it'll always run worse.
All right, I think that's going to be the
good?
quote.
That makes
That's good.
sense. Well,
yeah.
to me,
I think that's
sense.
it, right?
To
Yeah.
me, it makes sense, right? Like you're pushing a rock up a hill, but you can't get it to the top.
Well, the thing is, it was weird because you think, okay, well, I think about like our clutch carts and stuff. It hits at 10,000, right, or 10,002, right? That's where you want the power to be. What does it matter below that? But
I think it does.
Get there.
listen, if anyone's going to know, Leonard Wood would,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's a man that, David Pearson and those guys. Dad would tell me stories because he knew David. Yeah. For several years there, they probably had a 40 horsepower advantage over everybody. But Pearson was smart enough; he wouldn't win every race, and he wouldn't win it by as much as he could. Like he would wait and run it down the very last little bit and make a show of it. Because he was like, I don't want everybody to know what advantage we have.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then the rules makers will come after us.
They will.
Absolutely.
We don't want those rules makers.
Yep.
John, this has been amazing. Our next bit, Jon Kaase is going to talk about hydraulic roller lifters. That's a pretty big
Hydraulic
innovation.
versus solids, right? Yeah, versus solids, right?
Versus solids.
Well, we have to run hydraulics, a lot of times, but it's a mystery for everybody.
Why is that?
Well, there's kind of a moving target, there's another spring in the system.
Exactly. There's a spring and a piston inside that thing, actually. So
it's but you can get it right, and they have their place.
Right.
You don't have no choice.
And the challenge is anymore, you've got these high horsepower street motors.
Right.
and that's a variable. Like I said, it's another thing.
We use more hydraulics than solids in the crate motors we build by far.
Right. Amazing. And
they're his lifters. You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly,
they have our name on them, but they're Callie's Morel lifters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. This has been an episode of Hidden Horsepower. I recommend you go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, TotalSeal.com website to get more stuff just like this. Thanks to the folks at Edelbrock for supporting this segment. Jon, this was just tremendous. Every time we speak, there's something learned.
Always. And
I'm gonna run out one day. You know?
No, I don't think so.
We'll keep on digging until we find that point.
Okay.
but thank you very much.
You bet.
Really appreciate you, and thank you for coming in. And Lake, this was illuminating.
Oh, it's fantastic.
More to come, more to come. All right, all you folks out there, next up, we're going to learn about those hydraulic roller lifters, courtesy of Jon Kaase. Check it out. What a day, what a day, what a day. My brain is swollen. I've learned so much today. They told us, don't start cars. We are not going to listen.